it's the Thursday before Christmas, this past Christmas. And I'm pretty excited because, the holidays are, not the Thursday before Christmas, sorry, the Thursday like 2 or 3 weeks before Christmas. And I'm in that excited point of time where you're doing fun things every weekend. And every time you go to the office, people have treats and stuff. And I'm working from home that day, and I get out of the shower, I get my chai, and I sit down at my computer, and I log on, and I'm just in this great mood. And then my email inbox populates, and my mood starts to fizzle because I see an email from Stacy. So Stacy is a woman that I work with. She's actually really nice. This is not gonna be like a Stacy Duncan kind of story. And so to give you some background, I've been working at the place that I'm working for about 10 months. It's a university, and I manage a program that's sort of related to international development. And it's not like saviorism, it's very like anti-colonial, and it's actually super fun, and I like it a lot. And I have one colleague that I work closely with. Her name is Estelle. And she and I work closely together. We like each other a lot, or at least I like her a lot. And then we've got these other staff members that are colleagues in the social sciences. And we don't work with these people. Like Estelle and I work together, but we're all kind of part of the social sciences. So they're our colleagues, and Stacy's their manager. And so they meet all the time, their work interconnects. Estelle and I are always working along the side. We don't go to their weekly meetings, but they are nice enough to invite us to social events, sometimes at the last minute, but that makes sense. They forget about us and we don't see them all the time. It's totally fine. And so that's who she is. That's who Stacy is, basically. And so I'm in a good mood at first because we're going to be having our staff lunch later that day. But then I see this email, and the email's about the staff lunch. And the subject line says, Secret Santa. So I open up the email, and she's saying, sorry for the last minute notice, but we decided in a staff meeting the other day that we're going to do this kind of Secret Santa type thing with a twist. And we want you and Estelle to take part. You don't have to buy anything. Just pick something from your house as long as it's not garbage and it's something that you don't need. And I was like, okay, that's weird, but okay, fine. And she's like, I hope you get this. Now, this is 9 o'clock in the morning on the same day of the lunch. But I am not one to back down from a challenge. And there's this part of me that goes back to the little girl I was when I was in grade 1. I was 6 years old. And the first time I actually remember having to buy a Christmas present. And so at that time, I'm in grade 1. Like I said, I'm 6. And I'm actually one of 2 brown kids in the entire class. And so a few weeks before the holidays, everyone started saying, what are you getting teacher for Christmas? What are you getting teacher for Christmas? I'm like, what are you guys talking about? But it sounds like everybody's getting teacher for Christmas. And, darned if I'm not going to also get teacher something for Christmas. So I go home and I bully my parents. I'm like, we have to get her something. Everyone's doing it because I want to fit in. I don't want to be the one kid who doesn't know that you get teacher a Christmas present. And so I bug them, and then we go to the Pickering Flea Market, and we get this eagle-shaped brass key holder. And she opens it in front of everyone, and it seems like she likes it, and I fit in, and everything's great. So, buying presents for people you don't know is stressful enough. But on top of that, as I said, this is 3 hours later, this lunch is. And so I'm expected to find something. But like I said, I'm up for the challenge. But the other thing that makes this more difficult is I'm actually going to be going off-site for the morning up until the lunch with my colleague Estelle to a high school to do a visit to there so that we can get them to come and apply for our program and come to the university. And so I've got a lot going on. But I'm going to do it. And my phone pings at that moment, and it's Estelle, and she's just seen the email while she's on a bus on the way to campus, and she's like, what the hell is this? And I said, you know what? I got it. And I said, Estelle, I got it. And then to Stacey, I said, we'll be there with gifts. Thank you for telling us. We'll be happy to take part. And so for the rest of the morning, I'm finalizing a PowerPoint for this presentation to a high school, and I am hunting around in my house to look for things. And then I hit the jackpot at one point. I go into my closet and I find this cylindrical container with a map in it. And it's one of those maps that's like a lottery ticket thing. You scratch it off for the places you've been. Someone gave it to me. Like, I have 2 small kids. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to Buffalo. Like, that's the farthest I'll go. So needless to say, it was unused in my closet. And I was like, this is perfect. I'll give this to someone and, maybe someone who actually travels and they'll have a great time with it. Boom, already halfway done. And then I start looking around, going from room to room in the house. Then finally, I look at my daughter's desk, and I see a pile of these watercolor paints. And I had got her, I'm a watercolor artist myself. I don't like her touching my paint. I don't like anybody touching my stuff, especially my kids. But I bought her own stuff, and I got her own little palette of paints so that she could play around with them. She used them maybe 3 times. She was super messy with them, and she hadn't touched them in months. And they aren't just any like dollar store paints. They're the paints that I use, and they're a brand called Beam Paints, if any of you guys know about them. They are the best paints ever. They're light fast, they're highly pigmented, they are indigenous made, locally sourced, zero waste, and they're made by an indigenous woman near Manitoulin Island. And they're like the best paints. They are really, really well done. This is now going to turn into a commercial for Beam Paints. But those are the paints that I got for my daughter, because I'm like, if you're going to paint, you're going to use good stuff. And I look at this, and again, she hasn't used them in months, and I think, I'm going to give this person a couple of these paint palettes, because it's not garbage, right? I'm not using it, and I didn't go to a store and buy it today, so I think it fits the bill. And so I pick out a couple of palettes, one with a bunch of colors on it, one with the primaries, and then I decide to stick in a little paintbrush as well. And I'm like, look at me, I'm done. Like, I'm pretty much ready to go. And then I realize I need to like wrap it or something. I'm not going to wrap it. Like, I've got like an hour to go, not even. And so I just hunt around for some gift bags from the kids' old birthday parties. And the one that's big enough for the map is an Avengers bag, and it's got like Iron Man doing the thing, and like the other guys behind him just standing there, and you can't see any of their faces. And then for the paints, the one that is the right size is a Disney Princesses one, and it's got the little Cinderella going like this, like that, kind of, and it fits everything, and I'm like, good, boom, done. And then I pack up my stuff, I get my little PowerPoint on the key, and I go and I pick up Estelle to go and present at this high school. 2 hours later, Estelle and I are leaving the high school, and we are just floating because we did so well. There was like 150 teenagers there, and you know teenagers are terrifying, right? Like, we have to be afraid of them at a certain point. But they were so great. They were nodding at all the right times. They laughed at my jokes. They asked questions. And at the end, the biggest ones came and said thank you to us. And we were just like, we did so great. And we're driving to the lunch, and we keep on rehashing. Remember when you said that, and then I said this, and they laughed, and we were just like, it was so awesome. And we were just like, literally, like, to use a cliche, we were on cloud 9. And then we're driving, we get to the venue, and then we're like, oh yeah, the gifts. And then I said, yeah, I got this stuff. Let's go open the trunk and take a look at it. And so, we start rummaging around and looking at it, and I show her this stuff, and we're kind of muttering to each other, like they told us at 9 in the morning. And then we're just like, what is this anyways? Is it a white elephant? I don't know. What is a white elephant? And we're just like, whatever, I don't know about this stuff. And then she's like, oh yeah, Estelle looks at the paints and says, oh, Beam Paints, I love these paints. I would have wanted them for myself. And we just kind of had a giggle, and we decide that she's going to take the paints in the princess bag, and I'm going to take the Avengers bag with Iron Man and the map, and we're going to go to the lunch. So we get to the venue, and it's beautiful. It's this historic old home that is actually owned by the university, and it's an event space now, and it's like got these mature trees all around it, and these grounds that people actually get married there, and it's beautiful. And then we go inside, and it's even more lovely on the inside, and there's like wood paneling on the walls, and the old lady flowered wallpaper and wood floors, and every room for each group of people, like they've all got their own rooms, and there's like a fireplace in each room, and it's really fancy and nice. So we find the room that our team is in, and we're the last ones to get there, of course. And there's probably about 16 people or so in total. So we're there, and I'm holding the Avengers bag, and Estelle's holding the princess bag. And Stacy greets us, and she's like, hi, guys. And she's actually a really nice person. She's very helpful. She's the type of person that, she's the type of person that answers your question before you've even asked it. So she sees us there with our bags, and she's like, oh, you can put the gifts over there on the credenza. And so we follow her hand over to the credenza, and on the credenza are all of these beautifully wrapped, humongous gifts. And Estelle and I just kind of look at each other, and then we just kind of scamper over and shove our bags behind. And I do it first. I take the lead, and I shove Iron Man behind one of the things, and then she goes and shoves the princesses. And then we just kind of like forgot about, like tried to, and then just went back. Because, we're still so excited. We start telling everybody about the high school visit, about the teenagers that didn't scare us, and all that stuff. And then we go, and the food's smelling great. We go to the buffet, and we get like turkey and stuffing, and the turkey's a little dry, but it's okay. And we're having, you know, a good laugh. And I'm doing my usual. I'm cracking a lot of jokes, making a lot of people laugh, and we're just having a really good time. We finish our meals. We go back for dessert, and we have pie and Christmas pudding and teas, and we just settle back down, and we're just enjoying our dessert. And then Stacy says, "Okay, time for the Secret Santa." And at that point, I'm just like, you know, I don't want to make everybody laugh anymore. I just kind of want to be quiet now. And so I just kind of tone it all down a little bit. And then she's like, "Okay, so everybody remembers the rules, right? You were supposed to not buy anything, something from your house, something that, you know, you didn't have to buy, something that was just there that you're not using, and, you know, as long as it's not used." And then I was just kind of like, okay. So suddenly the fireplace behind me that was comfortably warm was like searing hot. Suddenly, you know, the wool tights that I wore because I thought they were cute are very itchy. And I'm like trying to remember, what did I read in the email? And I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm seeing the words in front of my eyes. I'm like, she did not write not used, or, you know, bring something as long as it wasn't used. She wrote, as long as it's not garbage. But I don't know. Like, I don't remember. I don't have the email in front of me, and I'm not going to say anything right when I'm there. So I just kind of sit there, and Estelle and I look at each other, and then we just kind of look away. And then we look back at the credenza, and then we just kind of look straight ahead. And then Stacy starts explaining the rules. She's like, "I'm going to pass around the Santa hat, and you put your hand in, and you pick a number, and that's the order in which you get to pick your present. And then you pick your present and open it in front of everyone." So at this point, Estelle and I were sitting next to each other. We're just going to start leaning into each other a little bit. And I feel like her arm muscles like start to tense. And the Santa hat gets passed around, and I pick my number, and it's number 7. And then Estelle picks hers, and she's number 9, and then it's done. There's like 16 of us. And then everyone starts to open their presents. So number 1 goes, and they go and they grab one of those beautifully wrapped presents, and it's humongous. And they open it up, and it's like 3 big white serving bowls, like formal stuff. And like, what in the Marie Kondo is this? Like, what? Who has that? Like, who has that in their house, right? And he's like, they're like, "Oh yeah, you know, serving bowls," and I was like, right? The number 2 goes, and they go and they select, like, you know, this beautifully wrapped like gift bag, and it's like all sparkly, and there's like plumes of tissue paper coming out of it. I didn't have that stuff at home. And like curls of ribbon. And they open it up, and it's like this beautiful frame with like stones encrusted on it. What are you people? What's happening? And me and Estelle are just leaning into each other and just being like, okay. And so that just keeps happening. And I stopped sort of paying attention to what everyone's opening, because I kind of know what's happening here now. And then I start just sort of counting until it's going to be my turn. And then suddenly Stacy's like, "Number 7, who's number 7? And I'm like, "Who's number 7? And then I look at my paper, I'm like, "Oh, I'm number 7, as though I wasn't just, you know, like, I knew the millisecond at which it was going to be my turn. So I say, "Oh, that's me." Then I go over to the credenza. And you guys, I saw the Iron Man bag, and I saw the princess's bag, but I took one of those nice big ones. And I took a big one, and it was heavy. And I said, "This is heavy." And then I brought it to the table, and I opened up the little wrapping paper. And when I opened it up, it was like a blank box, like just a plain white box. And you know something fancy is inside when there's no picture on the outside. And everybody's like, "Open it, we need to see what's in the inside." So I'm like, okay. And I took my nail, because the box was sealed because it was not used. And I open it up, and I pull it out, and it's this wooden photo album thing. It's like these 2 photo albums made of wood. And it's in a wood box with frames on the outside, and it's very heavy. Like, I think it's real wood. It's not like compressed oatmeal or whatever. And then I do like a little Vanna White. I show it to everybody. I'm like, "It's photo albums." And then someone's like, "Ooh, that looks like it's from Bombay Company." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I think so too." And then I put it back in the box, and I kind of do the little Disney princess thing, and I just kind of scan scamper back to my seat. And then the next person goes, and similarly, sealed box. It was a nice like teapot, a green teapot with flowers on it. Definitely not used. And then it's Estelle's turn. And you know what? She follows my lead. She goes over to the credenza, and she picks a really nice looking gift bag. It's like velvety, and it has like a big snowflake on it. And it has, you know, clouds of tissue paper billowing out of it, and, you know, the ribbon and all that. And she opens it up, and she's like, it's heavy, too. And she opens it up, and there's these 3 ramekins that are, like, painted and shaped like 3 little adorable snowmen. And everyone's like, that's so cute. And I'm like, that's so cute. And then she brings it back, and she sits down and just puts the bag between her legs. And then we just wait. So a few more people open their gifts, and then I think we're probably, like, at number 12 or something by now. And someone grabs a gift bag, and they open it up, and glory, glory, inside that gift bag is like a water glass with 3 loose Ferrero Rocher chocolates in it. And I was like, God bless you, please, who listened to the instructions and got something from their house that they weren't using, that they didn't buy. And then Stacy's like, oh, that's a vase. And I'm like, no, it's not. But I'm like, oh, yeah. And someone else very gracious is like, I love Ferrero Rochers, and my husband and I are always stealing them from each other. And I'm like, I bet you wanted more than 3. But I don't say that. I don't say that. I keep it inside. And I just say, like, a silent prayer of, like, blessings to this person, my comrade in gift-giving arms, for doing that. More people open their gifts, and the credenza is getting very empty. And so Iron Man is there, and the princesses are there, and they're just strutting it. Like, we hid them, and they came out. Like, they were just, like, there. And so this guy, Danny, stands up, and he's a really nice guy in the office. He's always good for a laugh. And he goes, you know what? I'm going to take the Avengers bag. My kids love the Avengers, and I'm curious about what's inside. So... And I'm like, yeah, wow, I wonder what's inside too. So he grabs the bag and he pulls out, because remember, there's no wrapping or ribbon or anything, he just pulls it out. And, you know, it's cylindrical, and he's just kind of puzzling about what it is. He knows it's a map, and everyone's like, what is it? And he's trying to explain what it is, and I'm, you know, doing that too, because that's how committed I am to the bit. So I'm like, yeah, I wonder what that is. But while he's puzzling, Stacy starts doing one of these. He's there, I'm here. She starts doing one of these. And she's like looking at me for clarification. And I'm just like, no. Just looking at him like, I wonder what that is. As though I don't know that it's a map where you scratch off the places you've been. And then eventually he figures it out, and he said, oh, it's one of those maps where you scratch off the places that you've been. And he's very gracious about it, and he's like, oh, I love this. I've traveled a lot. This is going to be super fun to do. And then after him, this next guy, Simon, goes, and he decides to follow Danny's lead. And he says, I'm going to pick the Disney Princesses bag because my nieces love Disney, and this looks like a cute bag. So he goes and he grabs the bag. And up till then, I had stayed in character. But at that point, my hand just betrayed me because I did one of these. And I had to wrestle my hand down. And Estelle and I are just leaning into each other. Like, I wish I could have held her hand, but we're just like being strong. And so he opens the bag, again, no tissue paper, nothing that's gonna make it any slower. And he pulls out the brush, the watercolor brush, and it's not sealed in plastic, and the bristles are puffy. It's obviously used. I brought garbage. And he's like, oh, this is a paintbrush. And he's kind of confused, and Estelle and I are acting like we're confused too. And then he pulls out one of the palettes, and it's this beautiful piece of round reclaimed birch. And the Beam Paints logo was burnt into it. And they had bored holes into it, just little divots into it that they filled with this paint. And he's like, oh, this looks like paint. And everyone's like, oh, let's see. So then he starts showing it to everyone and swiveling his hand around. And the light from the picture window is coming in, and it's like highlighting the divots in the paint, the parts where you could see that it was used and the paint palettes were not filled. And then he swivels it again, and the light hits the other parts where the paint that had been used had activated and stained the wood. And so, that was really helpful that he did that. And someone's like, oh, those are watercolors. And he's like, oh, yeah, cool. And then he goes into the bag and he gets out the second palette, and that one has got the primary colors in it. And again, they're used, they're a little stained, and he does the whole thing where he shows everyone. And then also I had thrown in there like another paint stone, which I didn't need, which is like the equivalent of an entire pan of watercolor paint. And he's like, I don't know what this is. And while he's doing that, I'm kind of doing the math in my head, and I'm like, there's like $80 of paint that he just got in there. And like, he doesn't know that. And no one here knows that. And it's not even just the money. Like, no one knows the value of these paints, that this local indigenous person has made a remarkable product that they've managed to scale up so many of us could use it while still treading lightly on the planet. And no one knows that. But I'm not going to say it. Because I don't want to be the outsider. I don't want to be the one who's like, she didn't know. And I know no one's going to make fun of me, but I'm kind of worried that they might pity me a little bit. And so I just shut up and just sit there. So like 1,000 years later, he finally puts the stuff down, and he puts it into the bag, and he sits down. And a few more people open their gifts. And obviously, they were all gifted by people who like either are liars or hoarders, or maybe they live in a department store. So when someone says, pick up something from home, they go to like a shelf and they get something brand new and they go and give it, because that's the only explanation. And then it's done. And then Stacey says, now for the twist. So there's a twist to this. And she said, there's going to be a little twist. And she explains to everyone that, well, basically what she says is, does anyone want to steal anyone's gift? And we're all kind of confused, and I'm genuinely confused at this point. And she says, and everyone's just kind of looking at each other and just like, what is she talking about, stealing someone's gift? And she's like, the twist is that because you've all seen each other open your gifts, now in numerical order, we can go around and you can steal someone's gift. And everyone's like, okay, and they're looking at each other, and everyone's just kind of quietly looking at each other. And you know that somebody wants that bottle of booze, bottle of St. Remy's. Or maybe there's someone who's like, I don't want to carry these 3 serving bowls back to the office. What I really want are 3 Ferrero Rochers. But they're all looking at each other. And I realize that, like, no one wants to be the first. And that it's kind of awkward. Like, we're colleagues. We haven't had any drinks in us. We don't really know each other that well. And stealing someone, maybe from, like, your superior, would be kind of awkward. And I look around at everybody, and I realize that they also are just trying to fit in with everyone. And so the little knot that was in my stomach loosens just a little bit. So lunch finishes. Estelle and I decide it's time for us to get going. We say our goodbyes, we get our jackets, and we go outside. And other people are leaving too, so we can't let loose just yet. We just kind of lean into each other, holding our little packages with the gravel crunching under our boots, and we just kind of go, oh my God, to each other. But then we get to my car, I turn it on and blast up the heat, and finally I look at Estelle fully in the face, and we just start laughing. That's it.